What improved your quality of life so much you wish you did it sooner? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. I wish you a pleasant viewing experience. Story 1. By learning that anxious thoughts actually don't need to be explored. I used to ruminate and obsess over my worst anxieties, fears, but all that did was teach my brain that it's a valid fear by constantly worrying about it. Now, when I have an anxious thought, I'm like, cool, bro, but you're just a thought and you have no power over me. I'm safe. And then eventually the fear-worry obsession goes away because you're teaching your brain that it's not really a big deal after all. Answer. Anxiety loves company. It thrives on attention. Self-pity and guilt are related in the sense they let you procrastinate and make you feel good. In a sense, it makes you avoid responsibility for taking action to get out of your morass. All this happens un- or subconsciously. Once you have insight, a heavy burden lifts off yourself both mentally and physically. You are now ready for recovery. Truly, only you can liberate yourself from the mental prison of torture. Story 2. Saying no without over-explaining. Once I stopped feeling guilty for protecting my time and energy, everything got lighter. Wish I'd learned that boundary setting wasn't rude way earlier. Answer. I also don't mind being rude to people who bother me. The most obvious example is cold calls. I didn't ask you to bother me, so why do I need to be polite and say no thanks? I just hang up. Same with people who approach me on the street. I calmly say no thanks, preferably without making direct eye contact, and keep walking. I don't owe them my time or attention to beg me for money. Though in that scenario, you want to be careful not to be a male body part about it because they're standing 5 feet away. Story 3. Quitting smoking. I smoked for 46 years and quit 13 years ago. Too many negatives to list and too many positives to list. Story 4. Eliminated my debts. My disposable income jumped dramatically. Though it took years of hard work, I will never ever do that again. Answer. LOL. Had dinner with a friend recently who talked about her Tesla, her husband's Rivian, and their new vacation home, then said that she sure wished she could get her credit cards paid off. I didn't say a word, but thought I really do like my old Mazda and my paid-off credit cards. No, I don't have fancy cars or a second home, but I am okay with that. Different priorities. Story 5. Remembering who you are, what you like, and what you want out of life, and not compromising yourself for the sake of others. If relationships are two individual rocks that continuously press against each other and crack each other soon enough, you won't remember the core of yourself. Slowly, you chip away at yourself to fit into someone else's life or try to fit their image of you until you don't recognize yourself or you are a shell of what you once was. That strong individual rock is just a shell or a pebble of you. So, life isn't worth going through such experiences. There are other rocks out there that will fit right into and next to your rock without those hardships. Remember your core and stay true to yourself. Story 6. Listening to white noises. It ain't talked about often, but listening to white noises helps you sleep better, helps with anxieties, helps you focus more. It's just cheat code for your brain. Story 7. Realizing social media is just wrong, and I even mean Reddit sometimes, that if enough people see one video about someone's opinion, everybody then follows along and dislike whatever it was they're talking about. Story 8. Spending my money on me instead of trying to maximize investments. I'm glad I used to do that, but that phase of my life is done. Answer. I was pretty into playing options for a while, and while it was stressful, I did enjoy it. Eventually, though, the time spent to make profits wasn't really justifying the gains. I'd always put money into 401k stuff that is either SP pegged or target retirement rebalanced, but now I check that once a quarter, and that's all I pay attention to the markets anymore. Story 9. Leaving a dismissive avoidant partner and working on my own attachment issues. Our best investment is in us. Don't abandon yourself. Story 10. Moving abroad, I used to be such a bitter jerk, but since I've moved, I've calmed down. I have money, good relationship with coworkers. Ava, just overall, I feel more optimistic. Answer. Moved with my family from Los Angeles to a small town in BC 2 years ago. I am so much more relaxed here, even though my day-to-day routine has hardly changed. One of my neighbors moved from Vancouver to here and was back visiting family a few weeks ago. I asked her how her trip was, and she said, "It made me so cranky. The big city has better food options, but is much more stressful." Story 11. Getting good with being single. It's a powerful position to be in. Now, the only people in my life are the ones I want in my life, not people I'm settling for out of fear of being alone. Answer. This one resonates with me the most. Being single, once I accepted it and sat in it completely, was one of the most life-changing experiences I have had. I traveled, spent more time with family and friends, made myself gourmet meals, pampered myself, and learned, worked on new skills. I vowed to be intentional and picky about who I would enter into a new relationship with. I spent about 5 years single. I met my best friend at 40, got married, and now have a beautiful baby girl. I believe I would have missed that opportunity if I kept up the same old pattern of settling. Story 12. Daily exercise, dislike PE in school growing up. And while I did play a sport, the habit of working out never stuck with me. It wasn't until I was much older that I started working out by choice. That lead to eating better, and that lead to sleeping better, and now I generally feel better than at any other time in my life. Story 13. Make a budget, not a spreadsheet that you look at sometimes. A real, check at least once per day budget. Story 14. Getting a dog, sucked for the first 2 months and thought I was in over my head. Now I can't imagine not having a dog. For the first time in my life, I have to care about something more than just myself, and it's changed my life completely. I was depressed most of my life, and now that I reflect on it, I started being depressed around 13 years old when my childhood dog died. I always thought it was hitting puberty and changing which caused it. Now that I have a dog as an adult, my depression symptoms have gone away. I think I just always needed a dog in my life. Story 15. I quit my customer service job. I worked from home doing it for the last 3.5 years I was and lived alone. So most days it seemed like I was never out in the world and isolating myself. Developed drinking problems that also happened while on the job. One Monday morning I go on first break about 2 hours in. As it's coming to an end, I just begin to feel this overwhelming feeling of dread about going back into work. I think I shouldn't have to deal with this every day of my life and almost had a mental break, but I decided I won't deal with it anymore. Went right in, logged out of my computer, and hit the liquor store. I was still sort of panicking, but sober me, tipsy me, and hungover me all agreed this was the right move. And it was. Worked a gas station night shift, which was better for me. And then one of my regular customers there got me on where he works a year ago, and I'm now in a career-level job. You just gotta take a leap of faith sometimes. My drinking is better now. Story 16. Breathing exercises, focusing on really deep exhales. In just 10 minutes, my entire outlook on the day shifts. Story 17. 1. Cycling and running. 2. Cutting down booze to 1 night per week. 3. Gym. 4. Sleeping at a consistent time whereby I wake up naturally. 5. Not drinking coffee past 11 a.m. 6. Oatmeal, whey protein in the morning. 7. Hugging my kid every time I see her, literally every time I see her. 8. Reading 2 chapters with my kid every night. She reads her book. I read mine. I'm 47. 10 years ago, my body used to feel like an old jalopy. Now it feels like a Porsche 911. Story 18. Taking Nurtec Topamax. Went from 15 migraines, maybe only 1 okay day per month, to 1 minor migraine a month and a couple days of stiff muscles. I went from feeling like a dying animal in feral self-preservation mode to now living life and just appreciating all the things. Playing with my daughter means the whole world and then some. Story 19. This is always controversial, but starting Manjaro to help with weight loss. For years, I tried healthy eating and exercise. I tried calorie counting and even tried a couple of fad diets. I went to dietitians and saw personal trainers. I did everything the doctors recommended. In the end, if I ate more than 800 calories, the weight just packed back on. If I ate less and didn't work out, I sustained. If I worked out, I lost weight. I went for a prolonged period of 800 calories and working out 2 years and lost heaps of weight, but I lost hair and it caused other issues to the point where my doc recommended I eat at least 1,200 calories a day. Within a year, I had gained all the weight back and packed more on. I tried to go about things the right way, according to most medical professionals, and not rely on a magical fix. Then I saw a doctor that specialized in female medicine and a hormone specialist. Testing was done. Turns out I had a severe hormonal imbalance and metabolic issues. I will likely be on this medication, at least on a low dose, for the rest of my life. How did it change my life? I eat between 1,200, 1,400 calories a day and work out as I was before, and I'm down 38 kilograms and still going. Everything is just easier. Since losing the weight, my hormonal imbalance has resolved and my autoimmune issues have been in remission for over a year. My self-confidence and ideas surrounding self-efficacy have soared, especially since I now know that I wasn't failing and that there was a reason my best wasn't good enough. Don't let anyone tell you that you're cheating if you get help losing weight. You're still addressing a health issue that is likely having a carry-on effect and causing other issues. If you're not already eating and working out, you're still putting in the hard yards and learning or building new habits. Answer: I have spent my entire 48 years being put on diets by my mom, doctors, you name it. I starved myself, overexercised, met with therapists, nutritionists, dietitians, every professional you can name, and my weight yo-yoed the whole time. I got sick, ended up with autoimmunity, sleep apnea, insulin resistance, and got to try Mounjaro. My entire life has changed in the last 6 months. I didn't know people woke up feeling anything other than like passing every day. And it's not even just about weight. Story 20. Used to have terrible back pain in my 20s every morning. Had a twin spring mattress at the time. I bought a Queen memory foam and no longer wake up with back pain. Story 21. Getting on stimulant medication. Not just for work productivity. It was immediate relief from feeling overstimulated and overwhelmed all the time. My brain and body are so much quieter, and I am able to be in a present moment without my thoughts jumping all over the place. Story 22. I've had insomnia since 2003. I would go a week sometimes, only getting an hour or two of sleep a night. I can fall asleep fine, but staying asleep is another issue. I got a CPAP machine and follow a very specific routine regarding food and caffeine. It's been a miracle. And now when I have the occasional night with 2 hours of sleep, I don't understand how I function like that. Story 23. Divorce. Don't put up with toxicity. Interesting how people change over the decades. Do what you can to make it work, but you deserve to be happy. Story 24. Understanding that no matter what I did, I would never please my father. So now I live life for myself. I built boundaries and do what I want. Those boundaries actually made our relationship better because he knows I will go no contact with no problem if he F's up again. I, Mason, do not want kids. He wanted me married so he could have grandbabies. Oh, that was not pretty. Story 25. Accepting my situation or whatever challenge may be in front of me and just going with the flow, not giving a fudge, putting myself first. Story 26. Trusting myself, not acting like I need to provide evidence and receipts for peer approval when making decisions, especially when dealing with abuse and toxic behaviors. Story 27. Meditation and daily exercise. As an adult, I didn't do either one with any regularity until my 50s. Both have had a profound impact on my emotional and physical well-being and solved problems I've struggled with my entire adult life. Story 28. Antidepressants accepting my brain chemistry as fudge. And I can't will away the depression with positive thoughts and meditating. I still feel sad and overwhelmed some days, but it's nowhere near the debilitating, can't get out of bed feelings I had before. Story 29. Consistently waking 10K steps every day. Unlike the gym, I actually enjoy it, which makes it sustainable activity for me, and the physical and mental health benefits cannot be overstated. Story 30. I used to be super judgmental. Whenever I feel that itch to get bothered over something someone else is doing, I ask myself 2 questions. 1, is anyone being harmed or setting up for harm, like tipsy driving or pranksters setting a booby trap? 2, is anyone involved being forced to participate against their will? If the answers are no, I just move on. Let other people do their thing. It sounds overly simple, but if you're like me and were raised in an incredibly judgmental atmosphere, it's life-changing. Story 31. Losing 120 kilograms. I can walk upstairs. I can run a 5K. I can run a 5K so confidently that I am comfortable signing up for races on a whim. I have a 5K next week. Not even worried. I can ride my bike without huffing and puffing. I can buy straight-size clothes. I still have some weight to lose, but I am sitting here in a size medium shirt. I can buy clothes pretty much anywhere. I don't have to check what their largest size is before looking at items. Also, sadly, people are way nicer now. May have lost a little more faith in humanity, but at least I have a jawline now. Story 32. 2 tennis balls. I just roll my back and bum over 2 tennis balls when my lower back hurts from sitting too long. It's so stupidly effective. Story 33. Think of my own actions instead of hers when she left me. I can control myself, not her. Once I got this part, I could move on. Story 34. Going outside for some cardio every day that's possible. Anxiety has lessened. Mood has improved. Even the body stiffness that I thought was just me getting older has reduced. I go even when I don't feel like it, just because I know how much better I feel after. Story 35. Becoming sober from my substances of predilection. I would be 10 years ahead socially and professionally today if I had fought harder against this terrible compulsion. Story 36. Leaving teaching. Classroom complexity and ridiculous government overreach was sucking so much away from what I had to give to my family, and it just wasn't right that my partner Spawn made sacrifices for some of these kids that their parents, who were typically able, couldn't be bothered to even consider. Story 37. Have a dog. Providing bereavement support for others and being in a stable relationship with an amazing partner. Story 38. Going vegan, mostly whole food. My health has improved dramatically, particularly my skin, digestion, energy levels, etc. Story 39. Quitting smoking plant substance, over 3 weeks clean now. I know it doesn't seem that impressive, but I'm determined to stay off it. Story 40. Quit smoking. After almost half a century, I decided on my 60th birthday to give myself a real present, almost 2 years later, and it was the second best decision I ever made. First was marrying her. Story 41. Getting rid of all of my patterned socks. Every single one. Asked all my friends and relatives never to buy me a pair of socks again. Replaced them all with the same type and color pair of socks, in long or short depending on the weather outfit. I save so much time and energy on sock pairing. Story 42. Letting them do what they do. Don't worry about why me or what you did wrong. People that treat others bad treat everyone they know that way. You'll be so much happier if you stick to analyzing your own life. Story 43. Finding the same routine to follow every morning. Make coffee, walk dog to lake, play Wordle and mini crossword on NYT games. Story 44. Joining a 12-step program called Adult Children of Alcoholics started me on the journey of mental health that I am still working on today. Story 45. Hey OP, quitting booze. I'm 49 and quit 18 months ago after 30 years of trying to drink myself happy. Sobriety delivers what adult beverage promises. Shout out or stop drinking. Story 46. Going to the gym. As a 29-year-old white male, I have recently been dealing with anger issues. I never really had this problem before, but my stress and anxiety about recent world events has converted this nervous mixture of emotion into anger. It really was becoming a problem. Then I started throwing heavy shoot around. God darn, it feels good. I'm more fit, more confident, and less anger and more level-headed now. I highly recommend. Story 47. 1. Prioritizing my sleep. I try to get 8 hours of sleep every night. I am happier, energetic, and more productive in my awake hours. Sacrificing sleep was only affecting my mood and my productivity. Whatever I can't get done, I don't get done. Obviously, there are situations where this doesn't apply. Overall, I get more done being awake for 16 hours. While feeling refreshed versus being awake for 18 or more hours and feeling groggy. 2. Cut down fast food, deep fried food, sugar, junk food, etc. I still indulge, however, in moderation. I have more energy and my mood is better. I don't do any crazy diets or anything, just try to eat whole foods versus fast food. 3. Starting the day with a healthy breakfast. I feel good throughout the day. 4. Cutting down adult beverage consumption. 5. Deleting most social media. No longer wasting my life scrolling and comparing my life to others. I struggled with depression and anxiety. These things really help. Story 48. Not giving a darn about what family thinks, demands, or expects of me. Live your own life. Don't live it the way others say you should. Story 49. Buying a dishwasher. I used to always be dreading doing the dishes or feeling anxious because I was avoiding doing the dishes or not cooking because it would create dishes. I am now free from dealing with washing dishes. Story 50. Stopping drinking. One of the best things I ever did, absolutely no good for you at all. Fudge with your development, messes up your hormones, damages your brain and body. Not drinking is basically allowing your body and mind to perform at its best or as close it can in all aspects. Story 51. I scrolled for a while looking for this, but I got a tonsillectomy as an adult at 26-year. It was hard to find a surgeon to agree to do it. And that paired with people online saying it was the worst recovery they've ever had scared me so badly. But honestly, it was so worth it, and I would get the surgery annually if I had to. Recovery was a walk in the park compared to the pain and discomfort my tonsils were causing me. Story 52. Intermittent fasting OMAD, I don't get the flu anymore. My endometriosis has calmed down significantly. Mood and energy are way more stable. Story 53. Currently avoiding all political discourse online, unfriending or blocking those who constantly post from either side. I still read the news and come to my own conclusion. Giving up adult beverage 8 years ago. Story 54. Shaving my head, was losing my hair, and got to the point where looking at myself in the mirror would make me legit vomit from anxiety. I suffer from pretty bad anxiety problems overall, so it didn't help. Seeing the patches and bare bits of skin just induced irrational panic whenever I saw it. Didn't help that I was also in my early 20s when it started unexpectedly. I grew it out for a few years because I was so scared of getting a haircut because it meant I had to look at myself. Irrational? Yeah, but anxiety isn't always rational to begin with. Prob also made me look like a weird hobo, and I'm pretty sure it affected people wanting to socialize with me, having this long afro of patchy hair. It also had to be washed frequently because it would get dirty and oily quickly, which was extremely uncomfortable for me because I could feel the oils on my face, back, and shoulders. Don't know if hair loss produced more oils or if it was just overall stress, but it was hard to stop. I would end up scrubbing parts of my body almost every hour of the day to get rid of the feeling. Anytime I passed a washroom sink, I had to scrub my face. Pretty sure half the time nothing was even there. During COVID, I had enough. I rationalized that since everything was locked down, if it looks bad, no one will see me for a very long time anyways, and I can just grow it out again or invest in a hat. Finally shaved it. Within literal minutes, I was able to look at myself in the mirror again without feeling sick. I looked normal. No gross patches, didn't feel oily anymore or uncomfortable, and I just saw my normal face. Story 55. Stopped listening to conservatives tell me how to live and what choices to make, and stopped letting them tell me who is evil and who is good. Story 56. Cut back on drinking. I still do it, but maybe just 1 or 2 with dinner now. Not having hangovers means no partied too hard days because I made bad decisions. Story 57. Walking to work and do reading on the way. It's for the most part a park walk with a bike every now and then. Story 58. Focusing on eating healthy and physical activity. Nowhere near as disciplined as I need to be, but miles ahead of what I was. Story 59. 1. Quitting adult beverage. 2. Not lying about stuff. 3. Going to eating disorder treatment. 4. Working out 5 to 6 days a week. 5. Taking a quiet walk every day. The first 20 years of my life were developing coping mechanisms, addictions, and the next 20 years was recovering, returning to my natural state and self-worth. Wish I could have expedited that a bit. Story 60. Buying quality instead of what's cheapest. I know this doesn't work for a lot of people, but if you spend 100 on shoes that last a few years instead of 20 on a pair that fall apart in a few months, you save money in the long run. Story 61. I just got a rhinoplasty to fix my deviated septum, and holy cow I had done this years ago. I can actually smell things. I don't snore, my breath doesn't stink. It's nuts that I just normalized to all of that since it had been that way for so long. Story 62. Yoga, it's definitely not a catch-all, but my body hurts less. It also makes it a lot easier to manage depression. Story 63. Quitting social media, Facebook and the like. If I didn't like you in high school, then I don't care about your fake life now. Changed my mental well-being and life in general. Recognizing the people that I put so much of my time and effort into simply didn't care about me. As soon as I stopped making the effort to be around, I never saw them again. They never put any effort into seeing me. My circle of friends went from 30 to about 2, finding and valuing peace. Story 64. A simple 40 bidet changed my butt life so much, I'm now an evangelist. If you haven't tried it, you should. No more endless wipes that ravage your stink star. Story 65. Set boundaries and limits for myself with housework. Trying to keep a pristine house is unrealistic and unnecessary. Just clean is fine. It's just my spouse and I anyways. No one really give a shoot. Story 66. Saying no to people. I used to be at the beckoning whim of my friends, and I started saying no and choosing me and my peace. It's been a great experience and change. I enjoy my peace and silence now. Story 67. Correcting my tongue tie. Affects your posture, muscle tension, even eating and breathing. Honestly didn't know any different until I had that sucker cut, and now I have so little tension in my upper back and shoulders neck that I've only been to the chiropractor once since then. Strange how such a tiny thing can affect you in so many ways. Story 68. I used to be a withdrawn child, and it took 2 months for me to become friends with my friend so we could just start talking, but I'm trying to develop my sociability. Story 69. Sleeping with my CPAP. Finally got a sleep study 1 year ago after dealing with chronic fatigue my entire life. Turns out I have severe sleep apnea. The CPAP has genuinely been life-changing. Story 70. Actually using my healthcare. I had medical and dental coverage for most of my 20s and 30s, but around 40 I got serious about going to all the doctors, taking the extra add-ons the dentists and optometrists suggest, if they aren't just blatant upsells, going to specialist DRs, even for small things, talking to a therapist, because why not? It's covered. It has really made me understand my body and mind better, and it's crazy how long I used to just ignore things when fixing them is usually easy and feels so much better than regularly worrying about them. Why didn't I prioritize it sooner? Story 71. Medically stopping my period. It was causing me so much pain, anxiety, and getting worse in terms of both pain and duration as I get older. The last year before I stopped it, I would bleed for 2.5 weeks every 5 weeks, and nothing over the counter relieved the severe pain. Working from home during the pandemic made my daily life a bit better, but making the decision to stop getting my period was life-changing. I could finally exercise, go camping, backpacking, and travel without worrying about how to deal with near constant pain and discomfort. Story 72. Using social media only at the end of the week. Helps to be productive on weekdays and keep updated also. Best of both worlds. Story 73. CPAP machine. I used to be tired all the time, no matter how much I slept, and would wake up super dizzy. Story 74. Buying and wearing noise cancellation headphones during my flights. They've helped me with overstimulation so I can enjoy my travels better. Story 75. A good robot vac and mop. Our floors are always clean and free of dog hair. I'm no longer stressed about the baby crawling around. Freed up our chores too because we're very tidy people. Story 76. Comprendre que je vivais un pic émotionnel herséurant et le plus souvent négatif. It's morbide, tristesse, déprime, en lien avec le yo-yo hormonal de mes cycles féminins, ou ce qu'on appelle encore syndrome prémenstruel. Le comprendre m'a permis de l'accepter et de le vivre comme une chance de pouvoir ressentir plus intensement cette période. Le souci, c'est que maintenant, en phase de périménopause, mes motions sont chamboulent plus régulièrement. J'essaie de trouver le coude de mon corps pour ne pas sombrer dans une mélancolie ou déprime hormonale. Story 77. Renting a cheap place in a posh neighborhood. I spend 20 of my salary on bills and the rest is just for me to save and enjoy life. Story 78. Taking accountability and responsibility for healing my trauma and lifelong mental health issues. Really getting intellectual about what helps, hinders, and works. I've overcome my chronic pain disorder and eat well and whole foods. I forgotten what it was like not to want to die most of the time. Still on meds, but I track symptoms and don't just do what the doctor orders. Story 79. Consistent exercise. I was a gym rat for the latter part of my 20s and early 30s until COVID hit and my gym closed their doors. I stopped lifting for 2 years and didn't realize how shoot I was feeling until I started exercising again. I was forced into PT for a back issue and it grew from there, and realized how much better everything felt. I have a few herniations in my lower back and neck, and when I don't lift, they get way more symptomatic, so I'm keeping them at bay by exercising like a nut. Story 80. Honestly, I'm a big B-day guy now. I'll hold it in until I'm in pain to make sure I use the upstairs bathroom. Story 81. Seeing a therapist, a nutrition, and working out lead me to making better decisions with more clarity and helped me leave an awful job. Story 82. Electric lawnmower. I've fought my gas stuff for years. Wish I had switched sooner. Also, passive car entry. I had it on my GX and I miss it on my JT. I thought I wouldn't miss it. I miss it. Story 83. Stop smoking made a huge difference in my life. Not coughing all the time. I get sick way less than in used to, and saving a ton of money. Story 84. Start saying no more often. Picking up extra shifts. Going out of my way for someone who won't return the favor. Lending money, nada. Story 85. New caster wheels for my office chair. You can get rubber ones which are silent and offer a better glide at your desk. You can also throw out the mat if you have hardwood. Story 86. Proper dieting. I have IBS. My first few months were a constant stomach ache. Went to a doctor, reduced all the foods that were causing flare-ups, and took B12 supplements. My life is so much better now. Story 87. Stopped lending money, stopped helping out those that do not deserve. Started paying attention to the money fitness. Life's getting better. Story 88. Having a long-term goal. Basically, I didn't have any goals in life until I was about 24. When I finally decided on something to focus towards, everything else got sorted out as a side effect. Before, I was single, renting one room in a clapped-out old house, working in a factory. Now I'm married, own a home, have a couple investments, and run 2 businesses. If I had just settled on a goal 10 years earlier, I'd be halfway to retirement by now. It doesn't actually matter too much what your goal is. Within reason, of course. You have to have something big which you're working towards, because that will force you to get other things sorted out on the way. So even if you don't reach your goal, those side effects will be worth it. Story 89. Ditching our car and cycling everywhere. I'm not saying it's feasible for everyone, but boy, it did me a lot of good. Story 90. Sleep, exercise, and cleaning my diet by far. It also say deleting most social media and actively making plans with friends as well to go out more. Story 91. Can anyone recommend any books or podcasts on how to force yourself to not give a fudge? I need to give less fudge. When I'm giving less fudge, I'm happier. Story 92. Getting out of a toxic relationship and into a healthy relationship. A relationship should make both, or more, of you better people than you can each be on your own. If both or one of you is worse off because of the relationship, then the relationship will eventually fail. Story 93. Remember that we are all only a phone call away from a diagnosis that's going to give you 6 more months to live. Save wisely, but don't stop living because of it. Story 94. An office chair that's fired to my height and with lumbar support. Haven't got back pain since. While before I couldn't remember last day I got up in the morning without pain. Story 95. Quitting vaping nicotine. It turns out all of those sleep problems I've been having for years, waking up at 4 a.m. or earlier and not being able to fall back asleep, were caused by my nicotine abuse. Story 96. Asking to move to a quieter part of the office. Not listening to machinery noise for 8 hours a day has massively improved my mental health. Story 97. Absolutely. When it came to extended family commitments, aunts, uncles, cousins, I stopped bending over backwards to be at their events and gatherings. 20 years ago, I moved 45 miles away from most family due to affordability. In that time, most of my family has only visited once or twice because it was too far. They missed my 4 kids grow up. No one came to 18th or 21st birthdays, graduation, baby showers, grandkids' B-days, or even moving out of state farewell gatherings. Yet for the first 10 to 15 years, we went to everything else for everyone else. About 5-7 years ago, I set the boundary of, if you don't support my kids and family, I am not going out of the way for yours. I was fitting everyone else in that didn't give a F about my peeps. For work, I cut back on outside hour work. I am in a line of work that never shuts off, mortgage lending. I no longer work past 6 p.m. Previously, I had no boundaries and often worked until 9 p.m. Now, after 6 p.m. is my time. I also work weekends. I now work Saturday as needed and never work Sunday, even if I lose business. I am now at peace with it. For friends, I no longer commit to an event that is forcing a visit. If it does not fit our plans, I pass and attend the next gathering. It is not that I don't want to go, but if it makes my life harder than needed to please others, I pass. I hope that helps. Story 98. Buying a king-size bed for me and my SO. Having room to sleep without crowding each other improves sleep quality for both of us. Story 99. I had no idea I had sleep apnea. Just thought I was getting older, worn down with life stuff, kids, job, etc. While annoying at first, a CPAP dramatically improved how rested I feel after sleep. I feel more rested after 6 hours than I used to after 9. Story 100. Sleeping early. Starting the day early feels so good and it feels so long. I wish I could get my old sleep schedule back, yet I am destined to be a night owl. Story 101. Got rid of my TV and social media. Go outside and enjoy your life instead of constant brainless time wasting. I didn't realize how irritating social media and TV is until I got rid of it. Can't stand it now. Not even in the background. Story 102. It's so stupid, but I did the free trial of Blue Chew to help combat my ED, and now my wife enjoys intimacy again. Story 103. Learning more about the world in terms of history, philosophy, and artistic works from the past, it really puts everything into perspective and makes the idea of not giving a fudge makes a lot more sense as it lets you focus on what you actually give a fudge about. Story 104. Moving out of my parents' home and deleting Instagram. The former helped me get out of my childhood regressive behaviors, made me better at conflict management. The latter has too many positives to list, lol. Story 105. Getting tested for sleep apnea. Getting diagnosed at 28 was a shock, but I feel like a new person now. Story 106. Comfy desk chair. I, 25F, relatively slender, bought a big and tall chair made by Serta, and it's so comfortable it might as well be a recliner. Perfect for my WFH desk job. Story 107. Getting sober after a 10-year battle with adult beverage. Day 80 today. I feel like a superhero and starting to look like one too. Story 108. Was going to say moving to Europe. In some ways it does, as it's great for mental health. Sometimes if you can live with working for peanuts. But in other ways, it's bad as my health has gone worse as I age, as I don't have easy access to docs here, and the system is screwed. Story 109. Motivating teammates while gaming, or being positive to others in general. I would usually play Rocket League to relax after work, but sometimes you just run into shoot teammates that say the worst stuff every time you make a mistake. So I made it a point to not only be nice, but to be encouraging and easy going around weaker teammates, and you wouldn't believe it. They actually end up playing a lot better. My mood always skyrockets during such sessions. Story 110. CrossFit quitting adult beverage, earplugs and white noise while sleeping, going to sleep and waking up at the same time every day, being nice to myself. Story 111. Not being so hard on myself. I grew up with parents that always focused on the bad without celebrating the good, which left me with a deep sense of inadequacy. While growing up and moving through the world, talking to people, observing others fudge up, I realized that it's not the end of the world to fail at stuff. Just try to learn from it and either move on or try again. Story 112. Saw me when getting medicated for ADHD and anxiety, which lead to not overthinking and catastrophizing interactions at work. I no longer stress about what people mean when they say things, reading between the lines. I only respond to what they say directly to me. Nothing else is important. If it's important, it's spoken openly and directly. The toxicity level at this office is the worst I've ever experienced, but the strategy I just described has improved my daily work life immensely. People with this level of immaturity and insecurity are too cowardly to openly act on their negativity. By not mentally engaging on that level with them, it removes a big chunk of stuff that used to make my days worse. Story 113. Treatment for heartburn reflux. Stop eating antacid and get some real help if you have those symptoms. Story 114. Eating healthier. I can't imagine how I was able to ever eat candies and greasy burgers for days without feeling like shoot. Story 115. Saving $20,000. I didn't do it until I was 28. I just spent everything that came in until that point. Just having that cash buffer made a huge improvement on my mental state, decision-making, etc. I wasn't putting off bills or letting setbacks, car repairs, feel like a disaster anymore. It came at a cost. I had to work 50, 60 hours a week for a year to save that much. But it was a great trade-off. Story 116. Installing a bidet. It was only $35 and it works perfectly. And you really feel the difference though out the day. Story 117. Built up investment account to live off dividends for 2 to 3 months, to quit toxic job, and find a more enjoyable one that also allows me to spend more time with my young son. It's not living on the beach drink in hand, never work ags and stuff, just enough to pay my bills and give myself time to correct my mental physical health and find something much better, even it's a little pay cut from previous job. Story 118. I started writing reflections on how I felt about things, rather than keeping it all in. It helps get my thoughts out, and as an introvert, it helped me over time to learn how to express what I want to say. Story 119. Stop drinking Diet Coke. I used to go through like a 6-pack a day. I got so many cavities and ate too much candy. I wished I never had started. Story 120. Realizing that trying to tough it out while trying to sleep through summer heat wasn't doing me any favors. I wouldn't use the AC in my home because it was so expensive, but I was waking up every 2 hours and had to stand outside while drinking bottled water from the fridge to cool off. I figured it was worth it if I was saving $100 every electric bill. Story 121. Apologizing rather than being stubborn. I've struggled with anger management since I was a child, and I've learned it's much easier to apologize than to ruin, damage relationships. Answer, and even if you're not wrong, just owning your part in any misunderstanding. I started a meeting today with I apologize that I came across as making a unilateral decision without consulting anyone else. I worded my statement poorly. That forestalled a lot of complaining, and we were able to get to the real purpose of the meeting right away, namely, that I was right and they were just a bunch of big, whiny babies. Story 122. Decent mattress. Holy fudge, I had no idea how much better life is when you get a decent night's sleep and not wake up stiff and sore. I had low back pain for years that has now completely cleared up. I feel 10 years younger. Story 123. A Roomba I found at Goodwill. I am so confused why nobody is raving about their Roomba, and I realize most people with one that I know have money. My Roomba has saved me so much maintenance time as a single, full-time working parent. I cannot explain how grateful I am for it. My cat and daughter always end up having little specks around the house, and I have to do a full vacuum sweep every weekend. Turning the Roomba on every day has drastically reduced that and makes my house feel cleaner. Answer, I tell my robot I love him every day. I have 3 small kids and I wanted to vacuum every day, but by the time I got the floor picked up in one room and went to pick up the next room, my kids made a mess again in the first room, so I could never do the whole house in one trip. Now I clean one room and push the button on my Roomba, and it's being vacuumed while I pick up the next room. We are a lovely team. I see my Roomba as essential, just like a washing machine or dishwasher. I could live without it, but I do not want to. Story 124. I stopped caring about what people thought about me if I said no. I used to feel a lot of pressure to go out, to help people out, etc. And finally realized that when the shoe was on the other foot, people had no issue saying no to me. It took a huge weight off my shoulders. Answer. Yeah, I have to agree with this one. I thought about all the times people said no to me for things they don't want to go to or hang out or whatever, and realized I'm not a special case that isn't allowed to disappoint people. I'm currently trying to apply that thought to drinking. I'm trying to stop my adult beverage intake, but find it hard to resist the peer pressure from friends. But there's also been heaps of times that I've wrongly tried to pressure people into drinking with me and having them refuse. Story 125. After a huge breakup, I realized that I have only myself and no one on this earth. Someone can, of course, help you and talk to you, but at the end of a day, you're alone in your bed, and those people are living for themselves, so trust yourself, love yourself, and be yourself. You are irreplaceable. Story 126. Letting people help me. I used to always think that people in my life would love me more if I never really let them in, especially when I was struggling. I got to a pretty dark place because I didn't want to be a burden to anyone else. I was tragic and I thought that nothing could make my life worth living. It got so bad I couldn't hide it anymore. I got better because I stopped isolating myself, and I let the people who care about me in. I let them help me, listen to me, and be there for me. Leaning on those who are close to you is the best thing you can do. Being vulnerable is hard and sometimes it hurts, but it's also necessary in order to create meaningful relationships with others. I think that is one of the most important things we can do in life. I'm so grateful for my friends. Story 127. For years, I would get really angry at other drivers for their behavior on the road. Cell phone use while driving chiefly, but also stuff like driving overly fast or overly slow or cutting me off in traffic or whatever. Used to get just enraged over it, screaming, cussing, ranting to family coworkers after the fact. Just bad. Last fall, I had an epiphany. I'd been getting enraged like that for 20 years, and it never once had an effect on the other drivers. People still use their phones. They still go too fast or too slow. Basically, a large percentage of people drive like they shouldn't be behind the wheel of a vehicle. But my anger hasn't changed even a single person, and never will. So why am I letting this have an effect on me? It's a waste of energy. So now when I see that behavior, I try to remember that. Not saying I don't get angry, but I remind myself of the futility of the anger, and it helps. I can usually now blow off such behavior by muttering something along the lines of, "Fudge jerk," and going on with my day. That realization has been a major help in easing my stress and anger over the last several months. Answer. I used to be the same way and took everything personally. Oh, that person cut me off on purpose kind of thing. I wouldn't try to retaliate, but oh boy, would I get angry. One day this happened, and I pulled out into the passing lane, and I looked over at this horrible person who had just intentionally cut me off. Look over, and it's this grandma who can barely see over the steering wheel. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't personal. The person probably shouldn't have been driving. I kind of realized then and there that no, it isn't all intentional. Most of the time, it's just someone not paying attention or distracted by something else going on with their day. That helped me quite a bit with keeping me level-headed when driving. Now they just get an uttered fudge moron, and I move on. Story 128. Giving myself an hour in the morning to get ready as opposed to straight out the door. Drink water in the evening. A ton, especially if I'm drinking adult beverage. In fact, water all the time. Regularly hit the gym. Learn to cook. Switch to cycling and trains. Become my own boss. Story 129. Stop falling in love with people's potential. That's just your imagination you're in love with. See PPL for who they are and actions over words. Story 130. Can I just say that I love your question? I'm looking through everyone's post to see what I too could benefit from. Thank you, everyone. Story 131. A breast reduction. 100. I always had enormous breasts, think like double GG, and I have a petite frame. I spent my younger life being sexualized too early by men who saw my big breasts as an invitation, embarrassed in swimsuits and tank tops. They were uncomfortable and so heavy and hot. They gave me heat rashes and bruises and pain in my shoulders. I felt like they were the first thing anyone saw about me. After a good friend of mine passed away from sepsis, it woke me up, and I thought, literally, what am I waiting for? My insurance covered the surgery, and it was intense and hard, but I never regretted it for a second. I wish I could go back and tell my 22-year-old self to get it done instead of waiting until I was 35. The biggest blessing in the world is not noticing my breasts on a daily basis. I am free. Answer: literally same. I had a similar size and my god was the random sexualizing just mind-boggling. Plus, everything became boobs first. Once I found I was X with the huge boobs, I lost my mind. COVID came with me not spending money, was able to save, and now I'm 3 years post-op, and I love every inch of myself now. Thank you whoever invented chopping boobs off. You're a real one. Story 132. Retire. I worked until I was 73. I was fearful I would be bored not working. Guess what? I am not bored. Story 133. Downsizing. Getting rid of the clutter around me. Instead of having duplicate and triplicate of everything, now I have one good one. Whatever it is. I quit keeping all of the kindergarten art that my kids could care less about. I was unafraid to take loads and loads of stuff to the charity thrift or to the dumpster. I have one good set of pans, one good set of knives, one good pair of AirPods, etc. I should have done this 20 years ago. Story 134. Hysterectomy. Granted, my problems weren't severe enough before, but bloody hell, life is so much better. Story 135. Going to bed at 10 p.m. rather than 11:30 p.m. Reducing carb intake, lifting weights a few times per week, going for a walk every day, reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, taking cold showers, learning or practicing new skills every day. Story 136. Learning how to cook. I didn't really get into home cooking until my late 30s. Despite having a family of professional chefs and highly regarded home cooks, including my own father, I've reached a point in my personal cooking journey where I'm now creating my own dishes rather than finding recipes and making them. But that's a lot of fun, so I'll never stop doing that. Story 137. That I shouldn't have listened to negative voices from people I thought wanted me well. If I only knew how much negative voices hurt and damage one's soul, I know it now. Too well. Story 138. Realizing that once something has happened, it's just how it is. Instead of giving myself stress attacks by constantly thinking about how I could have done it better differently, I looked at the situation and think about what I can do from now on that'll help whatever the situation may be. Fudge up studying for an exam? Instead of moping around and complaining, take the next steps for the next exams. You can only take control of the future, not change what has already happened. I swear this took a load of stress off of my shoulders. Story 139. Medication for ADHD. I can't believe how jarring it was to experience how everyone else functions. I was a girl in school in the late 80s, 90s, so ADHD didn't exist for girls. Even though both my brothers had it, I was instead opinionated, a wiggle worm, a daydreamer, speaks out of turn, reads in class. As an adult, I was anxious and depressed, couldn't keep a job for more than 5 years. I was chained from one SSRI to another, stronger to another to another. I kept saying that each stronger med made me feel more irritable, more angry, more anxious. The answer was always, you must need a stronger one. When I advocated for ADHD testing and medication in my early mid-30s, literally changed my life. I took myself off SS-Rissery over 4 months and it was miserable, but I knew if I kept taking them, I'd end up in jail. They just caused more and more increasing rage. The first dose of ADHD meds made me shocked, sad, and excited all at once. Since then, my income has quadrupled, not a joke. I don't feel listless, fatigued, and blurry from 1-4 p.m. every day. I'm not depressed at all, whatsoever, unless I stop taking my infant-sized dose of Adderall, TNMG, steady for 7 years, so I don't want to hear about Adderall addiction, pulse, and thanks. I can do the boring, unrewarding tasks without a second thought. I don't have manic rebirths of my entire furniture layout, calendar, and schedule every few months as an attempt to strategize myself in a new exciting productivity state. My goodness, so many issues mislabeled. Answer: thanks for sharing. This makes me feel things. What led to you seeking an ADHD assessment? Research? Was it suggested to you by someone else? I'm 28, have taken many antidepressants, had many therapists, many misdiagnoses, and still struggle with feeling listless, being underemployed, disorganized, chronically unfulfilled, and uninitiated. I don't really know what to do anymore. I've suspected for about 4 years that I might be impacted by ADHD, but there have been so many confounding conditions, re-trauma, to wade through. It's been difficult to be assessed for anything else. I feel I'm not taken seriously because my history may indicate developmental trauma. I feel wickedly intelligent, but I struggle with basic executive functions. The contrast is killer. Is any of this relatable? Story 140. Got a dog. I didn't want one because they are a lot of work. Kids and the wife overruled me. I walk about 1.5 to 2 HRs more a day. Plus, I love that darn dog. Story 141. Leaving my garbage human ex-husband. About 9 years sooner would have been preferable. I used to be sad even when I was happy. Now I'm happy even when I'm sad. Story 142. After years of dabbling with religion, I got into reading Stoicism and then applying it to life. Can I do something about X problem? If no, it is meaningless to worry. If yes, then do the thing. Ongoing reminders of this basic concept has both reduced stress and also reduced my procrastination. Story 143. Moving states away from my small town filled with addicts and fuck-ups, and my abusive parents to go live with the person I fell in love with. Story 144. Lifting weights consistently. Best change I've ever made for my physical, but more importantly, mental health. Story 145. Not saving when I travel. I started to always buy upgrades like better seats, got a lounge access card, take the room with good view, etc. Story 146. Hemorrhoid surgery. Suffered with it for over a decade, just because I was embarrassed. Having the surgery done literally changed my life. Story 147. Quitting my job. Don't get me wrong, I need money and have other means to earn it through investments. But my day job dragged me down mentally to where I just couldn't do anything else on the days that I worked. Then my weekends were spent agonizing over the fact I would have to do it all again in a few days. Answer, same. I got to the point where I was calling in sick for mental health reasons due to my job causing that once or twice a week. That was during my last 2 months. One day at work, I had a complete panic attack due to how awful I was being treated, all for a sad 16-hour. The boss said during work meeting, we're not doing raises now. That was my sign to get out ASAP. I did 2 weeks later. Now I don't have a job, and for someone like me, it works. I'm awaiting treatment for my RLE intense ADHD. Maybe that will help me want a job. For now, I'm gladly brining in zero. The alternative is nearly dying due to stress for 16-hour. Story 148. Setting clear boundaries with my friends. I can think of 2 off the top of my head who I'd known 20 years. One would make every decision into a business negotiation and need to win. The other was just wild, and hanging out with him would land me in dangerous situations where I'd be afraid of arrest, getting beat up, or being so inebriated I couldn't get home. I'd always go along despite hating it because they were my friends and I didn't want to disappoint them or argue with them. After some time, I realized I didn't owe them explanations or need to please them. The point of spending time with someone is that you enjoy it. And if it stops being enjoyable, you can advocate for yourself or bail. Your history doesn't obligate you to accommodate for its own sake. So I started either saying no to things or unapologetically pushing for things I wanted. It put a strain on our friendships. Stopped talking to first guy and low contact was second, but did wonders for my mental health. I'm sad our friendships didn't endure, but that wasn't a reason to go along. To give an example, first guy was visiting, and I made time to see him. We made plans, and I explained I had to leave by a certain time because I had work in the morning. He kept trying to change plans on the fly as things struck his fancy, and then tried to negotiate how late I can stay out. For example, some restaurant he thought of was better than what we agreed to, even though it was an hour out of my way, but according to him, I could just pay for a taxi instead of taking the train. Eventually, I told him that I wanted to stick to the original plan or find another place nearby because the flip side was an extra 2 hours to my commute or like $100 for a taxi. When went to press the issue, I told him I don't negotiate with terrorists. Story 149. Divorce. Literally every aspect of my life improved, but especially my health, both physical and mental. Story 150. Working multiple part-time jobs instead of one full-time job. Although I love my full-time job, I sometimes wanted to scream from having to sit in one place and do the same thing 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Yes, I have ADHD. Now I do 4 jobs. My old office job around once a week, remote freelance tour shifts, an unpredictable gig once or twice per month, 1 400-hour shifts, a restaurant job twice a week, 6er shifts, and a reception job 3 days a week, 4 5-hour shifts. Currently, no job exceeds 14 hours per week, but altogether I'm making nearly twice what I made at my full-time job while working fewer hours. I'm never bored, always stimulated, and my work is higher quality as a result. Plus, I have more time to work on my own projects and pursue my passions. Story 151. Got off social media. Will be leaving Reddit as well soon. I don't need to know everything that's happening around me or what's happening in the world at all times. In fact, I don't care to know. I deleted everything, and my mental health was better within a week. My whole life was overall more productive, successful, TBH. Answer, I used to only follow friends and people I knew on social media. So not really the same as Reddit, but by not using Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, etc. anymore, it's also a lot more interesting to meet friends. Much more to talk about when you can ask what they've actually done and tell them what you've done rather than you already knowing everything interesting beforehand. Story 152. Cold showers. You need to wake up quick and feel like Goku for a little while? Take a cold shower. You struggle with diagnosed depression like me? Cold shower releases a wave of dopamine and serotonin. Not a cure, but I really look forward to it every day. Want to learn a little bit about self-discipline or mental toughness? Step fully into that bad boy every morning at 6 a.m. and stand under it. Force yourself. Small steps. Hot day, cold shower. Want to reduce inflammation after a workout or injury, but don't have a tub for an ice bath? Cold shower. Need to increase circulation? Cold shower. Strengthen your immune system by creating more white blood cells? Cold shower. Want to increase your metabolism? Well, it's a bit unclear if they really help you lose weight like some people say, but there's no debate that your body will go into overtime burning as much energy as possible to try to keep your core temperature up, and something about brown fat cells, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm no scientist, and I know that some of these things are linked but unproven, but there is a ton of research being done on cold therapy, and it definitely has beneficial effects all over the body. Also, the placebo effect is a real thing, and if you really think it's going to help you, it can. Story 153. This is low-key, but getting zippered mesh laundry bags for socks and underwear was a game changer. No more lost socks or digging through the pile trying to find a match. Story 154. Air fryer. I only got it because my oven stopped working. It took me 2 months to decide to get a replacement, and it turned out to be much more than just replacement. Story 155. Seeking treatment for ADHD in my 30s. It took a long time to get over what I missed once I was formally diagnosed and started taking medication. Story 156. I quit drinking. What shocked me was that adult beverage was influencing my thinking when I was sober. It was like this negative cloud lifted. Story 157. Learning to stop wasting mental energy comparing myself to others and trying to find the worst in everything. It's easier to just be happy for people. Story 158. Going to the gym, not to lose weight, but to weight train. I feel so much stronger, healthier, and just happier overall. Story 159. Gain self-respect. Am lonely as all hell, but I don't have anyone treating me like shit, making me question my worth. Story 160. Letting go of my pride. I used to hold a mean grudge and was constantly full of anger. I realized the only person it was affecting was myself. I also enjoy and try to make the most out of my family time because you just never know when they'll be gone. I rather have many good memories than regrets. Story 161. Gym cardio 3-4 days a week, sometimes 5. Overall more energy and just feel more confident in everything. Story 162. Recovery. I struggled with depression, eating disorders, and self-harm for 15 years. I tried recovering a few times, but it wasn't 100 effort. Finally, I got sick of hating everything. I was finally ready to recover. I put 110 into trying to solve my issues. I tried therapy, medication, oils, diets, working out, meditation, writing workshops, self-help books, CBD, etc. I tried everything. Eventually, I found what works for me and what doesn't. I went from full-time to part-time to focus on my mental health, and after 5 years, I was okay enough to know I'll be fine. Recovery isn't a straight road. I still have bad days and relapses, but I'm doing so much better, and it sucks I couldn't feel this good sooner. Story 163. Honestly, not giving a F. It's not what you think. You still show up, train, work, perform, whatever you call it, but the less you struggle with trying to win, the most likely you are to win. I think Alan Watts talks about it in his own way. I recommend you give him a listen. Story 164. At age 55, I lost 165 pounds, over half my original body weight, 295 pounds. My life has changed beyond recognition. Story 165. Organize my fridge by putting the fruits and veggies in the door instead of in the crisper drawers. In the drawers, I ended up just shoving them in there and eventually finding a big puddle of sludge with some half-edible, fresher fruits on top. Lots of extra time was spent taking out the drawers and washing them in the sink. Having them in the door makes me look them in the eye and know exactly when they need to be thrown away because fruits and veggies aren't supposed to grow eyes. Story 166. Changing our surname from a stereotypical Jewish name to a bland English one. Sometimes anti-Semitism looks like swastikas spray painted on your driveway and your kid being subjected to passing threats, and it's the bleeding obvious. Sometimes it looks like a 4-6 month job hunt after a layoff when the rest of your team only needed a couple weeks and getting the absolute lowest end of the pay range when you finally do get hired. And you don't know, anti-Semitism was probably the culprit until the first layoff after the name change. And with no changes to your skills or the job market, your 6-day job search lands you a 100 remote position with a 50 raise. If I had known, it would have been my 18th birthday present to myself. Story 167. Ad blockers. I got to 39 never using one until a whole screen covering McDonald's hyperlink ad kept blocking my clicks in the Elden Ring wiki and gave me no choice. Now my computer runs super fast because there aren't 24 video ads trying to play all at once in the background. I should have done this much sooner. Story 168. Shrinking my circle of friends. It was unintentional, but the last few years really changed people emo. Things they would not have cared about are now priority one, probably by design. Anyways, I never realized how much energy I was wasting on keeping acquaintanceships alive. That and deleting my social media accounts. Story 169. Opioid replacement therapy. I used to go to bed every night not knowing if I'd wake up, homeless, with police charges out my jerk. Now I have a full-time job, house sharing, and no issues with the law. Story 170. Getting a hysterectomy. I always wanted to do it sooner, but according to doctors, I might want children someday. No, I won't. But what I did want is to not be bleeding so much I was anemic and to no longer be in dire, crippling pain all the time. Getting that fibroid-ridden bastard removed was the best thing I've ever done for myself. Story 171. Quitting drinking. I did a lot of drinking and partying in my early to late 20s. Within a week of quitting, I felt so much better. Haven't had a drink in over 8 years. Story 172. Discovering the concept of early retirement and applying some frugality to my routine. Not sure I'll early retire, but I have no money stressing. Story 173. Cliché as it sounds, going NC with my abusive ex-family. It did not magically solve everything, but the amount of things that have gotten significantly better since then is ridiculous. Like, even my digestion changed. I have never looked back. That doesn't resolve the existing trauma, but FCKK me. It stops adding to it. Story 174. Moving to FL out of the Midwest cold weather. I'm finally happy and losing weight. Being able to walk on the beach whenever I want just does wonders for my soul. Story 175. Volunteered at a pet rescue, then adopted a dog that was labeled unadoptable, aggression issues. I knew the aggression issues would be okay with me because I knew her. They were gonna put her down, so I adopted. I love this dog like I have never loved anyone. She has enriched my life more than I can convey. I became a dog lover 20 years before I adopted her, and it was all the experience with many dogs that helped me understand her needs and triggers. Volunteer. The experience just happens. The right one will come along, and they will choose you. Story 176. Good sleep, running 3 times a week, and lots of veg. I'm now pregnant, have an aversion to vegetables, and cannot run much because I'm so tired and it's honestly hard. Story 177. Taking elderberry gummies. No joke. First time I could breathe through my nose without downing Mucinex and hot sauce in years. Story 178. The day I stopped giving the slightest of fudge about what others thought or said, especially what they thought or said about me, life improved 10-0-0. Story 179. This sound dumb, but getting loop earplugs, this sounds like an ad on the phone. I have sensitivity to loud noises, and loop earplugs just help so much. I get less overstimulated and overwhelmed now, which is great. I have loop engage and loop quiet, and I love them. They were kind of expensive, but, it's worth it. Especially when you go to a boarding school and your dorm mates snore lol. Story 180. Getting rid of Facebook and Instagram, and picking up a paintbrush, learning to sew, and growing my own food. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you'd like to see more content like this, you might be interested to know that I've created another channel with a similar theme, especially for those of you who enjoy what I do. I'll leave a link in the description, and I hope to see you there. Take care.